Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is our week 3 review for the defense class. This week we covered defensive signals in class. So that's what the main review will be on. And I just want to remind everybody our last week of class is coming up, the fourth week of our defensive class. And our Wednesday class will meet as usual. The Wednesday class will meet, but the Friday class will not meet this week. It will meet on March the 8th. There's a sectional tournament going on at the Bridge Center, and the regular games will not be held on Thursday through Sunday, and we can't hold classes either on those days. So anybody that's a Friday person,
What?
remember to come on the next Friday, not this Friday, March 1st. Okay.
Okay.
All right. First thing, let's review a little bit about what we talked about week before,
Yeah, I've got the meeting. I can't get the downloads.
which was third hand
You know,
high, second hand low.
let's move around a little bit because
Y'all need to mute if
it
you're
is
gonna
okay.
talk, not asking questions, so, because I can hear. Okay, so last week we talked about third hand high, second hand low. This is the handout that we had for that week. And just some reminders about that. Third hand high, second hand low, which we all learned when we first start playing bridge, is a very good set of rules to follow. If you don't know what else to do, these nearly always work. But now that you're kind of moving along in your bridge career, we need to refine those a little bit because we need to make sure exactly how high and when and how low and when. So when third hand high, generally third hand does play high, but only as high as necessary. And we mentioned some examples of that and the reason for it. If you're playing third hand, your partner is the one that is led to the trick. So you're the last person for your pair that's going to play to that trick. So you want to play high because that's the only chance you're going to have to win the trick. On the other hand, if you can see in dummy cards that you could play below and still win the trick, then you play only as high as necessary. For instance, if you can see that the king jack is on the board and you have the queen 10 in your hand, then they play the jack, then you'll just play the 10. You'll play only as high as necessary, not the highest card that you have. Even beyond that, sometimes we want to play not even when we can't see the other cards. The value is that it's going to promote cards either in our hand or in our partner's hand. So sometimes if we can see the ace queen on the board and we have the king 10, might even be a good idea just to play with the 10, not the king, because the 10 may win. We don't know where the jack is. Either the jack will win in declarer's hand or it will be promoted in partner's hand. So frequently, if we think there may be something promoted, particularly in no trump, in a suit that you don't expect to get trumped soon, then you don't play quite as high as necessary. And the reason to do that is to play your high cards the most efficiently. If you have touching cards, so if you have a choice of two cards you could take, for instance, you have the queen jack and you're going to play one of them, play the lower of the two. This is the opposite of what we do when we're leading. When we're leading, we lead the higher of touching honors. But when we are playing to a trick, we play the lower of touching honors. The reason we do this is we've talked about the fact that it is a good idea in defense to give your partner nuggets of information as you can to help them figure out what's going on with the hand. And if you play the lower of touching honors and declarer does not play the higher honor, your partner may be able to deduce that you have that interim honor, that you have the one that's missing. So that's why we play the lower of touching honors. Also, a thing to remember here is if you just have two cards in a suit
Mm.
and your partner has led a high card in a suit, sometimes you have to overtake partner's trick to avoid getting trapped in your hand. A clear example of this is when your partner has led the king of a suit. So if partner has led the king of a suit, we know they have the queen, if not more, in the suit. If we have the ace small in that suit, we're going to need to take partner's king with our ace, because you're never going to get more than two tricks in that suit. If you don't play the ace, partner will win the king and you'll win the ace, but then you can't go back to partner's hand unless there's some other way to get into the hand. So when we're in that situation of where you have a doubleton, partner is led a high card and you have the higher card, you play it on top of your partner's card to unblock. This is not true if you have three in the suit, because then your ace would be wasted. But when it's in the situation where there's just two, you need to unblock. So that was third hand high. Second hand low, we talked about the concept of aces are meant to take kings. That's kind of a general concept that we like. That's why we don't like just to play an ace out. We prefer to play an ace on top of a king whenever we get a chance. We doesn't always work, but that's the philosophy we'd like to think about. And that's one of the reasons why we talk about we may not play third hand quite so high when we're playing third hand high, when we can see what's in dummy. We may want to trap the honors in dummy with the cards that we have behind it. So that's one thing. In general, though, second hand plays low. This lets us conserve our high cards, because if we are the second person to play to a trick, our partner is going to be the fourth person, the last person to play to the trick. So this allows us to use our cards the most efficiently. If we jump in with a high card as second hand low without knowing what the situation is, we may be stepping on whatever partner has in fourth seat. So generally, unless there have been several rounds played and we have a good idea what partner has, we play low for second hand. It also makes declarer guess, because especially if declarer has cards that you can see in dummy and they're going to be finessing, they have the ace, queen, 10, and you have the king in your hand. Well, they're finessing. And so we're going to make them guess about which card they need to play and who has the card. If they play low and you have the king and you can see the ace and queen and 10 on the board, there's really no advantage to playing your king. You've just helped the opponents out by playing the card they were looking for. Usually you play second hand low in that situation. Maybe they'll guess wrong. Maybe they'll play the ace. Maybe you have the jack and they'll play the queen and not the 10. So make them guess what's the correct thing to do. That's another reason why you play second hand low. And then the third reason you play second hand low is that you create entry problems for declarer. If declarer has the king, queen, jack, 10 on the board, and you have the ace in your hand, you want to not play that ace and make them work to establish that suit on the board. So you won't play the ace. You'll play second hand low and keep playing second hand low until it's time for you to cash your ace. Hopefully in that period of time, declarer will have run out of cards to use to get over to the board. Because as when we talked about play of the hand, we know sometimes entries are a problem in getting to a suit that we want. So playing second hand low creates entry problems for declarer. So the rule of second hand low is true more often even than third hand high. Both of them are good rules and generally followed. Second hand low is nearly always the correct thing to do. The time when you don't do it is if you have two honors together. And you can see that by playing one of those honors, it's going to promote the other of your honors. So if you have the Queen Jack, you can see the king there. And by going ahead and playing the queen, you're going to make him have to play the king. Your Jack will be good. Well, that's a time to split the honors. If you can see that nothing is going to be promoted, then there's no point in doing that. But if you think there's a chance that you're going to be promoting your other honor, you split the honors, which means you play one of your honors, you don't play low, and you play the lower of the touching honors when you have touching honors. And then the other time when you don't do second hand low is when you have the setting trick in your hand, and you can defeat the contract by playing second hand high. Then you go ahead and do that. And then the last thing we talked about last week was the rule about covering an honor with an honor. That's usually secondhand play where you have to make that decision. And it's usually right to cover an honor with an honor. That's nearly always the correct rule. That rule supersedes the secondhand low rule. So if the opponents have led an honor, you have the next higher one and you can see the other one on the board, then you definitely want to play yours, make them use two honors to get your one. The common situation there would be they lead the queen of a suit, you have the king, and you can see the ace on the board. Go ahead and play the king and make them play the ace. Use two of theirs to get one of yours. This would totally be true always if you have the jack, because if they've led the queen, you have the jack, they play the king and then the ace, your jack is now good. So for sure do it in that case. Sometimes if there is nothing to promote, then you won't cover an honor with an honor. If you have a queen and two small ones, then you may not, or a king and two small, then you might not, because you might want to create some entry problems for declare on the board. You might still want to play low. So you kind of have to think about when to cover an honor with an honor, but it's nearly always right to cover an honor with an honor. And that's one of the main rules. Okay. All right. So that was last week. Let's talk about this week. This week, we're talking about defensive signals. Every week we've talked about the fact that on defense, you are at a disadvantage because you cannot see your partner's cards. Declarer gets to see partner's cards. Well, on defense, we have to have a way to communicate with our partner to give them information about our hand. We start doing that when we do the opening lead, and we continue to do that by our second hand low, third hand high play. That gives partner information or guesses about our hand. But the main way that we do it is by signaling, defensive signaling, which is also called carding, the carding that we use. And what we're doing is, and this is when we have a choice of what to play. Sometimes we're just playing third hand high or second hand low, and we're just following that rule, and that's what we need to do. But many times we're in a situation where we just need to play to the trick. We're not trying to win it. We're not doing second hand low or third hand high. We're just following suit. Well, when we have that situation where there is a choice of things that we could choose to play on a suit, we will use a choice of what we play to give information to our partner. And usually it's in the lower level cards. We do not signal with honors. Honors we use to take tricks. But other cards that we're not going to use to take tricks, we can signal with. So usually it's the non-honors, the 9 through the 2, that we use to do signals. And in general, our signals are, if we play a high card, it says we like the suit. If we play a low card, it says we don't like the suit. It's as simple as that. It's just whatever card you're choosing to play to a trick gives your partner information about it. There are really 3 types of signals that we can do. The first one is the most important one. It's the one we use all the time and that you should be doing all the time. And that even as beginning bridge players, not sophisticated yet bridge players, you should be using these attitude signals to tell partner, I like this suit or I don't like this suit. A high card says I like it. A low card says I don't like it. The two other types of signals are signals to give count to your partner, to let them know how many cards you have in a suit. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then a third type of signal is a suit preference signal. This is a really powerful signal. Doesn't come up that much though. So until you have a regular partner that you play with regularly that's watching this and being serious about it, you may not pick up those suit preference signals, but we will talk about those. The most important one though that we're going to talk about first is the attitude signal. I like this suit. I don't like this suit. That's your attitude about the suit. If you'll turn in your books to page 183. On page 183, it's starting to talk about signaling, whether you like a suit or not. And in the middle of page 183, it has an example there of partner has led the 3. We can see the ace and 2 small on the board. And we have a king, a 9, a 2 in our hand. Well, if dummy doesn't play the ace, we'll play the king, right? But if dummy plays the ace, now we are just going to throw a card on there. And we're not going to throw the king on there, right? But since we have 2 other cards we could choose to play underneath the ace, it's a good idea to give our partner the information that we like this suit and we would like them to lead this suit the next time they have an opportunity to do it. So in this case, since we like this suit and we have a choice of a 9 and a 2 to throw off, which one would we throw off?
The 9.
We would
The
throw the
9.
9 because that's the highest card we have. That's a signal, partner, I like this suit. Lead this suit again if you get a chance. If you'll look at the top of page 184, top of page 184, now we have the opposite situation. Partner has led the 3, dummy plays the ace, and now we have the 9, 6, 2. We've got nothing to encourage partner in that suit. We don't want to encourage partner to lead that suit again. So in this case, we would play the 2, the lower one. We could throw away any of those 3 cards. Be just as good. It's not going to win the trick. We're just tossing a card away. So when you have to choose a card to play, then you give partner information. And so by playing the 2, we would be saying, not interested. Lead again at your own risk, you know. So that is the way you do it. High, you like it. Low, you don't like it. Look at page 185. Page 185, we see a full deal here, full hand. The contract is 4 hearts, and partner has led the queen of spades. When partner leads the queen of spades, assuming that we have not bid spades, partner leads the queen of spades, what do we know about partner's hand? What piece of information do we have?
That he has the jack.
He's got the jack of spades, okay? He's got the jack. He leads the queen. Declarer is going to play the ace of spades.
Dummy.
And then we have to throw off a card. And so what card would we play? Would we want to encourage or discourage in that suit?
The 9.
Yes, we would play the 9. We would want to encourage them to lead the suit again. Now, if you think about it, the fact that partner has the jack and maybe the 10, he's going to lead the suit again anyway, right? But if he leads the suit again anyway, he would lead the jack. That doesn't let you play your cards very efficiently. The most efficient way to play it is for him, when he gets to lead again, to play a low spade, assuming that you have the king, and then lets you lead the 2 back to him. That gives you the most efficient use of all the high cards you have in that suit. You should be entitled to 3 tricks in that suit.
Right.
But if you don't signal him, you run the risk of not getting all of the 2 other tricks, getting the other 2 tricks that you're entitled to get in that suit. So you need to signal him with the 9 that you have the king. And in this case, he's going to know you've got the king, because he can, sometimes signals are ambiguous. The 9 is nearly always, 9 is always a signal because it's the highest of the signaling cards, just like the 2 is the lowest of the signaling cards. Those are never ambiguous. But here he could tell because he can see all the other cards. He can see the Queen, Jack, 10, ace. So he knows when you play the 9, that is a strong signal that he has the king. And we don't get too often, we don't get to know what partner has in the hand. So whenever we can get to do that, we want to do that. Contrast that with page 186. The deal there, again, we've got a 4-heart contract. We've got partner leading the Queen of Spades, and then dummy playing the Ace of Spades. Here we are going to play the 2. Partner does not know where the king is. Partner may be hopeful you have the king. If you had the king, you'd play the 9 to let him know that. But here you were going to want to play low. You were going to want to throw the 2 on this because you don't want him to encourage him to lead that suit again. So that tells him you do not have the king. You don't have any face cards. You don't know what else he has, but you know you don't have anything. Okay, on page 187, it's talking about when to signal. And we always signal on opening lead. That's a time when we definitely signal. We try to signal other times, and signals are more important earlier in the play of the hand than later, because earlier in the play of the hand, there's more options that giving partner information about your hand will be useful to him. By the end of the hand, usually last 4 or 5 tricks, things are set. Everybody knows where everything is. And so usually there's no signaling then. There's no value to it. But early on in the hand, we expect signals. And definitely on the first trick, you're expected to signal. When your partner leads, you're expected to either take the trick or signal if you're not taking the trick. So look at page 187. Partner has led the Queen, which says he has the Jack. Then declarer is going to play the Ace. And because they expect a signal on the opening lead, you're going to signal with the 7. Now, the 10 is not much of anything to write home about, but it is at least an honor. And so you would signal with the 7 rather than the 2. The 2 would say, you don't have the king. The 7 says, I've at least got something. And it's a mystery as to where the king is. You know where the king is, right?
It's in
You
declares.
see that? The
Yeah.
the east here on page 187, you know where the king is.
Mhm.
Because partner could not have the king and lead the queen. Dummy has the ace. So that means that declarer has the king.
Why your partner wouldn't suspect that you have the king if you put the 7 down?
He might, but the king is where it is,
Okay.
right? And you're going to at least be promoting your 10 if he does knock the king out.
Okay.
So that's another thing to think of in this. You need to think of not just what partner has, which is important, but also what are you going to be promoting when you get rid of other cards that are destined to win anyway? Because once you know dummy has the ace and declare has the king, that's it. But you guys have the rest of that suit.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at an interesting one at the top of page 188. This is kind of counterintuitive, and we need to think about this one a minute. The contract here is 4 hearts, and partner is leading the ace of diamonds. You have opened the bidding 1 diamond in this situation. And that's why partner is leading a diamond, and he's leading the ace of diamonds as you bid it.
Sally,
Yes.
again, I found that a little hard to lead that ace when your partner has bid the diamonds, but that's obviously the right. Why would you not lead? Because you never underlead an ace, is that right? You wouldn't
Generally,
lead
you
a
don't
low.
underlead an ace. That's not true
Okay.
in no trump, and it's not
Yeah.
quite so true when your partner has bid.
Okay.
So if you led the 7 of diamonds out of this,
Mhm.
excuse me, if you led the 3 of diamonds, which is the bottom of something,
Yeah,
I would not say that's bad.
okay.
Okay. But
Yeah.
this person chose to lead the ace. Okay. So they've led the ace of diamonds. You can see the 2 little diamonds there on the board. And you have the king, queen, 10, 9, 5, 2. So what are you going to discard?
I guess you don't want him to, you want to discourage him because aren't you trying to save those diamonds for later?
Well, usually in a suit contract, we try to get, we work from strength. We've talked about that in play of the hand, and that, so usually we're going to try to get what tricks we can before before Trump takes them away from us.
Okay.
We're only going to get 2 diamonds because he's only got 2 on the board.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's one thing. Look at the rest of your hand. So partner's going to get the ace of diamonds. You're going to get the king of diamonds. Do you have anything else that looks promising?
The ace of spades.
The ace of spades is a definite, but what other card? Look at dummy and look at your hand. What if spades are led? You get 2 spade tricks.
You get 2, you trap the king.
Yes, well, you're finessing the king. If somebody leads spades, the king is finessed. So if they don't play the king, you get the queen. If they do play the king, you get the ace and then the queen.
And then you get the queen.
So you would love for somebody to lead spades.
Yep. Leading diamonds, leading spades.
So for that reason, in this case, you're going to play the 2 of diamonds. That discourages partner from continuing the diamond lead. He doesn't know where anything else is. And frankly, your opening 1 diamond bid could have been 4 diamonds headed by nothing. Right? When you open 1 diamond, that doesn't promise much. So you want to discourage him from leading diamonds again because you want him to lead spades. Look at the dummy's hand again. If you discourage him from leading diamonds, what is he likely to lead?
Probably a spade because he's not going to lead clubs.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So if you kind of analyze the situation here, you want to give a low signal, tell him don't continue spades, don't continue diamonds. He'll continue something else. And in this case, the natural and only logical thing for him to do would be to lead a spade. If he does that for you, then no matter what dummy does, you get 2 spade tricks and you still get the king of diamonds.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then
Yep.
the contract is defeated. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of a deep dive, requires you to figure some stuff out. But that's the power that you can have when you are signaling and your partner is watching your signals. It can be really powerful. Now, sometimes, remember I said earlier, signaling can be ambiguous. Sometimes it gives us a little bit of a problem.
The
And
diamonds
we
are-
look at that on page 189.
No, we didn't repeat the diamonds. We only played
Page 189. Partner has led the 5. Dummy has put in the ace. We would like to give an encouraging signal, right? Because we have the king. But look what you have. The 4, 3, 2. If I play the 4, how is partner going to read that?
Discouraging.
Yeah, seems discouraging. But we can only signal with what we have. And so we have to go ahead and signal with the 4. That's as high as we can play. If we get to play a second card in that suit, we will play a lower card, and that will tell partner that that 4 was the highest card that we could signal with. So sometimes you have to watch very carefully, and the first discard doesn't tell the full story. The opposite example is at the bottom of the page, 187. Excuse me, 189. Again, partner has led the 5, dummy plays the ace, and now we've got the 9, 8, 7. We want to discourage. We don't have anything, but we have to play the 7. That's as low as we can play.
Ambiguous.
And that's ambiguous. So partner's going to have to wait till partner's going to sort of assume that that's encouraging. But if a second round of this suit is played, then you can play the 8. Then partners who should be remembering these will say, oh, that was not a high signal, that was a low signal. Let's look at page 190,
I wrote them.
because sometimes you signal to help you get a trump. So let's look at this one on the top of page 190. The contract is 4 spades. Your partner has led the ace of hearts. You didn't bid hearts or anything. So they were left to their own devices to decide what to lead. So when they lead the ace of hearts, what should we assume about their hand?
The king, that
They have the king. They have the king. So they lead the ace of hearts. What then would you signal with? Do you want to signal them to continue or not to continue in that?
continue.
Yes, you want them to continue, not because you have something in the suit. It's not because you like the suit, because you've got face cards in it. You want want them to continue because you have a doubleton.
Mm.
So in this case, rather than playing the 4, which would be the discouraging signal to say, partner, I don't have anything in here, you're going to play the encouraging signal, playing the high card that encourages them to next play the king. And then they will see that you have a doubleton because you're playing high, low. They'll lead a third one because you've asked them to lead a third one, and you'll trump it. You can see that there's 3 on the board, so you know that a third one, or you're assuming a third one, should be good. Declare could always be trumping, but you can only see what you can see. Does everybody see that? So the signals although mostly they mean I've got something positive in this suit and I want you to continue to lead for that reason. Sometimes it's to get a ruff and to encourage them to lead so you can get rid of your cards in the suit. Now, so far we've been talking about when you're following suit, when partner has led the suit and you are discarding a card that gives a signal. But frequently you are not following to a suit and you give an attitude discard. And it starts talking about that on page 191. If you can't follow to a suit, you have to throw a card away, right? In another suit, unless you're trumping. But at both the suit contract and no trump contracts, when you can't follow suit, you throw away a card. Well, instead of just throwing away the lowest card you have in some suit, let's use those discards. Those are called discards. Let's use those discards to give our partner information about what we might like. And so what we do, it's the same principle. If we throw away a high card, we like that suit. If we throw away a low card, we're not interested in that suit. So look at page 192, where we have an example of this. Partner has led the ace of hearts,
It's no
playing
trump.
one no trump.
Hmm.
Partner leads the ace of hearts, then he leads the king of hearts, and you follow suit. Then he plays the queen of hearts. You are going to have to throw away a card out of your hand. You could choose any card to throw away. Before you learned all this signaling business, you might just throw away the 2 of spades or the 3 of diamonds, either one, because you're just throwing away a card. But if you're signaling, if you're paying attention to signals and you and your partner are signaling each other, what card do you think you would discard when partner plays the queen of hearts?
Nine of diamonds.
9 of diamonds, a high card in diamonds. That's like waving a little flag to partner to say, hey, look at this high card. I like this suit. Lead this suit. So when partner gets through taking their 5 hearts that they're entitled to take, you see that? They've got 5 tricks they're going to take in hearts.
Mhm.
Then they're going to lead a diamond. And you are going to get 2 diamonds. Do you see that? Because the
Yeah.
king is in dummy and you've got the ace queen behind it. So if partner leads a diamond and they play the king, you play the ace and then the queen. If they do not play the king, you play the queen and then you play the ace. Either way, you've put down their contract because now you're taking 7 tricks and they could only afford to lose 6 tricks. Okay, got a little quiz on page 193. Let's see if this is making sense. So on the first one, partners led the 4. Ace is played from dummy. You have the queen, 8, 3. What would you play from that?
8.
8 is an encouraging signal. Now we've got the next one. Partner has led the king. Dummy is played low. Are you going to play the 7 or the 4?
4.
You would play the 4. That is discouraging in that suit. Now,
Was there any point in saying that you have that doubleton?
yes, I was just going to
High
say,
low.
if you're playing in a suit contract, you might play the 7 because then you can play the 4 next. That would make it clear to your partner that you have a doubleton. The next to last one, we've got the king covered by the ace. You've got the jack 5, 2. Which one are you going to play?
5.
The 5. You want to encourage that suit because you know partner has the queen. They led the king, unless that was a singleton. So they've got the queen. You've got the next card under that. So the 5 is as much as you can encourage. Usually the 5 is not seen as a high card. So that partner is going to need to wait till you play the next card to see whether that was high or low. And then the last one, partner has led the 4. Dummy plays the 2. Which one will you play?
Queen.
Yeah, here you're playing the queen, and that's not the signal. That's not a signal. That's just playing third hand high. So we're not always signaling. Sometimes we're playing second hand low or third hand high. It's when we have a choice of what to play that it's a signal. Okay, let's move over to page 194. Now, what we've been talking about so far were attitude signals. I like the suit. I don't like a suit. It applies to cards both that you're playing in response to partner's suit, what partner is led. It also applies when you're discarding, when you can't follow to a suit. And both of them, high card says, I like this suit. Low card says, I don't like the suit. So those are attitude signals. That's what we do most of the time. Now we're going to talk about count signals, how to give count. We don't do this as frequently. Attitude applies generally when our partner is leading, because if our partner is leading a suit, we want to tell our partner we like this suit, we don't like this suit. Well, when declarer is leading, we don't want to tell declarer we like the suit, we don't like the suit. You know, we don't want to give them that information. So what we want to do is tell our partner how many cards we have in the suit, because partner may be able to use that information to let them know how long they need to hold up or whether they could continue to play in that suit after the declarer's done whatever they're going to do. So when declarer is leading, but either from dummy or declarer, when the offense is playing to a trick and you have a choice of discards, you give count signals. And the way you give count signal is high, low is an even number. Low, high, or low up the line, low, and then a higher card is I don't like this, is an odd signal. It's an odd number of cards. So the most frequent one, and it's easier to remember to me if we think about a doubleton is always high, low. That's an even number. So it helps you remember high, low is even. Up the line is odd. So a lower one and then going higher shows the count there. And this is useful most often in no trump contracts to give your partner an idea about how many cards you have. And so when they can play the last card in a suit, because they're not going to want to set up a suit for declare. So they're going to hold up on playing their cards as long as they can. And that gives them an idea. Then if they know how many cards you have, they know how long to hold up. There's an example there on page 185. Which I'm not going to go over with you, but you can take a look at that. And it just shows how when partner knows the number of cards you have, partner knows that they can need to wait till the third time to play their ace. If you had more cards, then they could play their ace sooner and then try to develop your other suit. So that's the value of giving count signals. The last one we have are suit preference signals. And they talk about those over on page, let me get there.
201.
201, thank you very much. These suit preference signals are mainly used when partner is going to be roughing. That's when they come up most often. And when you know partner is going to be trumping, what you would like to have happen is you lead a card, partner trumps it, partner leads another card back to you, you win it in your hand and lead another card back to them to trump. That's how you can make this work most efficiently. But the problem with that is partner needs to know how to get back to your hand, because partner doesn't have any of that suit to lead. And partner can't lead trump. So you need to give him a clue about how he can get back to your hand. So if you'll look at page 203, It gives a good example of how this works. The opponents are playing a four-spade contract. Partner has led the 9 of diamonds.
Isn't it?
So 203.
Sorry,
Yeah, I'm on page 203.
okay.
Partner has led the 9 of diamonds. You've got 6 diamonds in your hand. You can see 3 on the board. That is 10 diamonds. You know where they are. So is partner likely to be leading from 3 diamonds, or is that more likely to be a singleton? When you have a long suit like that and partner leads that suit, if partner didn't have anything to go from the bidding on, and they didn't in this case, you didn't bid those, you can assume or hope that that is a singleton. If that is a singleton, partner needs to know a way to get back to your hand. You can take the ace and then lead one back for him to trump, but then he needs to get back into your hand so you can lead another one for him to trump. And the way you let him know, and you can look at your hand, or it's actually looking at partner's hand here. Partner's the one that needs to signal here. But look at partner's hand, East's hand. East has an entry to his hand in clubs. So you would like to encourage your partner to return a club to you. Or give West, East needs to give West the information that after he trumps that trick, lead a club. And the way you do that is by playing a low club, playing a low card in diamonds. If you play a low card in diamonds, it says partner, when you play to him, he's going to trump it. You're leading a card for him to trump. So if you lead a low card for him to trump, it says return a low suit. If you lead a high card for him to trump, it says lead the higher suit. So if you had, for instance, the ace of hearts, you would return the 10 of diamonds for him to trump and lead a heart. But because you have the ace of clubs, you lead a low one for him to trump and then hope that he reads that signal and sends the club back to you so that you can play the ace of clubs and lead another one to him to trump.
That's pretty clever. Is it come up very often?
It comes up not that often, but it comes up enough that you should be paying attention to this. Actually, I find this more useful more often than even count signals. Although count signals we give more often, they just usually aren't as valuable. But when you find the situation and you do these, they are extremely powerful. So you need to be able to watch for these. You can also do it, and it shows you an example on page 202, when partner is leading the ace of hearts, and you would like him to lead a club to you. So when you throw off a heart, because he's going to play the ace, and then he's going to play the king at some point, you want to play as small as you can. That could be read as a preference signal, and I don't like the suit, or it could be read as a suit preference signal, in which case he would lead the clubs back. He may lead the clubs anyway because he sees the king sitting there, but if he has to make a choice, he can see the king of clubs and the king of diamonds sitting there. He's going to have to lead something. So if you give him a suit preference signal by discarding the 3 of hearts, he should choose the clubs rather than the diamonds. But all of you have to be on the same page here. You know, both people on defense need to be paying attention, watching for this, and doing it. So it works most often when you have a partner that you're playing with, that you trust each other and they're paying attention to each other's signals.
Pardon me.
Bless you.
Frankly, that's, that's kind of a deep dive to expect that, particularly beginning bridge. But those of you that are really looking to up your game and are serious about it, this is the kind of thing that you need to start looking for, because this makes a giant difference in your game. When you're watching
Just read it,
sometimes
otherwise
top
you figure
players
it out.
play and you're thinking, how did they make that contract? How did they know to do this? It's this kind of thing that they're using that lets them give information to their partner. That's why they're way more effective on defense than we are when we're just starting out playing bridge.
Right.
Okay, so those are suit preference signals. I would suggest that you guys do the exercises at the end of the chapter, because they are really very good in helping you kind of see which card should you be playing, and they have an explanation of why you should be playing those cards. But right now, I want to look at the handout for defensive signals. And actually, I don't think I've sent this to you. I'll send this to you after this session today so that you'll have this. I handed it out in class, but I should have sent it to you, and I don't think I've done that. So here are the general rules of defensive signals. First, when you're following to a suit or discarding either one, the card's value is used to send signals. The signals are usually given with the cards 2 to 9, so non-honors, 2 through the 9. Your partner needs to figure out what the signal means from the bidding, from the cards they can see in dummy, and from the cards they can see in their own hand. They have to figure it out. It's also sometimes really ambiguous, and we talked about those examples. Sometimes a 4 is high, sometimes a 7 is high. It's, a 9 is always high and a 2 is always low, and that's about all you can be sure about. So you need to sometimes figure it out by the second card that's played in a suit as to what the real meaning was. It's not always clear from the beginning, and you may misread it, and that's the best your partner could do, though. And another thing is, even though these signals are useful, it's not required that your partner follows them. It's required your partner pay attention to them. Your partner should be reading your signals, but your partner may know something that you don't know, and so may choose to do something else and not follow the signal that you gave them. So it's depending on your understanding of the hand, but every time you have the chance to give a signal to your partner, you should, because like I said, we don't have a lot of different ways we can know what's in partner's hand. So we have to take every opportunity that we have to share nuggets of information. And it mentions here you should always signal on opening lead. The next part talks about the types of signals, and I'm looking right here, forget the box for a minute. But under types of signals, we have attitude, which is responding to partner's leads always, and generally for any other partner-led suit. High cards encourage, low cards discourage. When you want to give count, which is generally when opponents have led the suit, high-low shows an even number of cards, and low-high shows an odd number of cards. Then we talked about suit preference, and that's usually when we want to tell partner what suit to lead next, when we either are just discarding or trying to tell partner what suit to lead. A high card asks for the higher ranking suit. A low card asks for the lower ranking suit. And then finally, we talked about discards. And discards are just tossing a card when you can't follow suit. And we use the same attitude type signals with those, that a high card means we like it. A low card means we don't like it. There is one other common way on discards to signal, and that is what's called odd even. An odd card means you like the suit. An even card means you don't like the suit. Some people prefer that. A lot of people prefer that. A lot of people play odd even for their first discard, that they play an odd card. They're saying to partner, I like this card. And even card, they're saying, I don't like it. the nice thing about playing odd even, it's not ambiguous. Because it's either odd or even. That's a fact. Like, and we talked about the fact that regular discards can be ambiguous. You know, how high is a 4 or a 5? How low is a 7 or a 6? So that's why a lot of people like odd even discards. That has to be partnership agreement, though. You and your partner both have to agree that you're playing that. The standard thing, if you sit down at the table with somebody you don't know and nobody has discussed what your signals are, everyone should assume that you're playing standard signaling. High, I like it. Low, I don't like it. Now, I'm going to tell you about this because so many people do it. You need to know about it if you're playing bridge at particularly competitive bridge at the center. A lot of people play what's called upside down. That's talked about in this box. And in this box that I'm talking about, everything is just flipped. It's upside down. So instead of high cards encouraging, low cards encourage. Instead of low cards discouraging, high cards discourage. The reason for this is that if you have to show a high card to encourage a suit, sometimes that's a high card that you would like to play later to win a trick. That's particularly true in no trump. Not so much in a suit contract, but in no trump. Because of this, a lot of people have changed and just play upside down so that their high cards are discouraging, their low cards encourage continuation in a suit. Some people play upside down for count so that high low means an even number, an odd number, and low high means even number, just opposite from what we usually do. Further, some people play attitude upside down and count standard. That's more frequent. A lot of people do that. So I just want you to know that, because if you play at the Bridge Center and if you play in anything other than the very beginning games where we don't pay too much attention to you, we aren't insistent that you have convention cards and everything filled out, which you're required to do in any game. We just don't mess with them very much at beginning games. You guys have enough to worry about. We'll worry about this later. But if you play in any other game, somebody may ask you what your signaling is or what your carding is. Carding and signaling are the same thing. And so what we've learned in our course book here is standard signaling. If they ask you what your carding is or what your signaling is, you can just say standard. But if you want to know, or if somebody says what theirs is and they say upside down, it's not anything that means anything real crazy. It's just they've turned the signals upside down. And so now you can read their signals. It's just you need to remember that high means they don't like it. Low means they do like it. Okay? But you'll hear people say that a lot. You know, ask what the carding is and they'll go upside down. And you just think, oh, what is, I have no idea. But it's an easy thing to know. Does anybody have any questions then on signaling? You should signal every time that you have an opportunity to when you're playing, when it makes sense to signal, even if your partner's not paying attention to it. And why I say that is because you shouldn't get in bad habits playing bridge. Sometimes as beginners, you think my partner's not paying any attention to this anyway, what's the point? But the point is you're getting in good habits, and you can discuss with your partner and encourage them to watch the signaling also. You will be amazed at how much this increases your ability to defeat declarers' contracts. And it definitely gives you a leg up. It puts you more in charge than just reacting to whatever declarer does by giving your partner signals and information about your hand as you play along. Okay? All right, for next week, for our 4th class, we're cramming 3 chapters into the last week. But that's because these first 3 chapters were the most important, or 4 chapters actually were the most important. The leads, the third hand high, second hand low, and the signaling are the most important parts of defense. Now, next week, we're going to talk about some refinements to this and how you can give more information to your partner, how you can use this to effectively set up a defensive plan for you and your partner. Okay? All right, guys, we will see you either Wednesday of next week or Friday of the week after that. Okay?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Sally.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Oops.